You have heard the number your entire life. 666. Maybe it made you uneasy the first time someone pointed at a barcode and said, "There it is." Maybe you watched a film where a child bore that mark on his scalp and something cold moved through you. Maybe you have heard preachers warn about microchips, about digital IDs, about a coming system that will stamp every human being with the seal of the Antichrist. Maybe you believed it. Most people did. But what if the fear was real and the interpretation was not? What if 2,000 years of speculation have buried something far more precise, far more dangerous, and far more personal than anything Hollywood ever imagined? Open the text, not the commentary, not the prophecy conference notes, the text itself. The book of Revelation was written in Greek, and in Greek, the word translated as mark is charagma. This is not a vague or poetic term. In the ancient Roman world, charagma had a specific, documented meaning. It referred to the official stamp of the emperor, pressed into wax, burned into documents, imprinted on commercial goods. It was the mark of imperial authorization. Without it, you could not conduct legitimate business. Without it, you were outside the system, outside protection, outside belonging. When Yochanan wrote those words on the island of Patmos, his readers did not reach for a prophecy chart. They reached for their memory. They knew exactly what a charagma meant. They lived under one every day. The face of Caesar watched them from every coin that passed through their hands. To buy or sell, you moved within a world stamped by his authority. The question Revelation was asking was not about a future technology. It was about a present allegiance. Whose mark do you carry? Now look at the number. 666. Centuries of dread attached to those digits. Generations of Christians flinching at license plates, avoiding hotel rooms, refusing addresses. But the ancient world read numbers differently than we do. They used a system called gematria, in which letters carried numerical values. Words became sums. Names became equations. This was not mysticism. It was literacy. When Yochanan wrote 666, his audience began calculating immediately. And the name that emerged from that calculation, the name that fit those numbers in Hebrew transliteration, was Neron Caesar, Nero Caesar, the emperor who had lit Christians as torches in his garden, the emperor whose name was already synonymous with the systematic destruction of the faithful. This was not hidden. The early church knew. The letters circulated among communities who understood. The number was not a riddle about the future. It was a portrait of the present, and a warning about what power looks like when it crowns itself as absolute. But here is where the text becomes luminous. Here is where it stops being history and starts speaking directly to you. Revelation does not only describe a mark, it describes two marks. The beast places his upon the right hand and the forehead, and God places his seal, his own mark, upon his servants. The contrast is deliberate. The architecture of the image is exact. In Jewish tradition, the forehead was the seat of intention, of will, of the deepest loyalties of the mind. The hand was the seat of action. What you do, what you build, what you trade, what you reach for. The mark of the beast was never simply about a physical stamp. It was about what fills your mind and governs your hands, what you think about when you wake, what you work toward when the day begins, what system shapes your decisions, your desires, your sense of what is possible and what is allowed. This is why the question becomes uncomfortably personal, because every age produces its own version of the beast. Every era raises up a system that says, "Submit to me, and you will belong. Comply with my values, and you will have access. Carry my image, and you will be safe." And the mark it leaves is not burned into skin. It is inscribed in the slow transformation of a mind that has stopped asking what God requires and started asking only what the world rewards. The ancient Christians who first heard Revelation read did not think of microchips. They thought of the neighbor who burned incense to the emperor to keep his business license. They thought of the soldier who swore the oath. They thought of themselves and whether, in small, invisible ways, they had already begun to carry a mark they had not chosen consciously, but had accepted incrementally. That is the text. That is what 666 actually meant. That is what charagma actually described. And knowing this does not make the warning smaller. It makes it larger. It makes it present. It removes it from the comfortable distance of the future and places it exactly where it has always belonged, in the daily, ordinary, unspectacular choices about whom you serve and whose image you bear. The seal of God is not a tattoo either. It is a life so thoroughly oriented toward Him that His character becomes legible in how you think and how you act. It is the mind shaped by His word, the hands moved by His mercy. The question Revelation asks has never changed across 20 centuries. Whose mark are you carrying today? Not in some final tribulation to come, but right now, in the marketplace of your ordinary life? Read the text again. Let it be what it is. Not a puzzle to be decoded, but a mirror to be faced. This content is based on textual analysis and historical context of the Holy Scriptures. Images and videos generated by artificial intelligence were used for illustrative purposes